welcome back to this episode of Outside the Arena, the Week 1 edition. I'm Griffin Senek. Alongside me is Devin Bernstein, and we finally have made it to NFL Week 1. I think the day you'll be watching this, we'll have Ravens Chiefs kicking off later this evening, and then tomorrow we have Packers and Eagles from Brazil. Kind of crazy they're playing there. Still don't really understand it, but alas, they are playing. And we've got a great slate of games to talk about. We're excited. We're going to break them down game by game. But first off, we are going to start off with a little very quick. We're just going to kind of speed through. But we thought we'd give our award predictions for the 2024-2025 NFL season. So we're going to do MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, Offensive Rookie, and Defensive Rookie, and then Coach of the Year, Comeback Player of the Year. So let's start at the Comeback Player of the Year award. And I'm going to go with Kirk Cousins. I feel like this is kind of an easy thing. He tore his Achilles last year. I think he comes back, leads the Falcons to the playoffs for the first time in a few years. I guess Aaron Rodgers is another guy that very well could be, on that list. But I don't know. Kirk Cousins was the first one who popped to mind, so I'm going to roll with Kirk for my Comeback Player of the Year.
Yeah, I mean, certainly one of the hardest awards to predict. Yeah, I mean, I don't even have like the strongest read. I know the last couple of years we had kind of more like redemption arcs more than injury situations. I think if I'm not wrong, I think the NFL kind of wants to change that more to like injury stuff. So yeah, it was kind of between Kirk and Rodgers for me. I kind of just think the Jets are going to be really good. So I'll go with Rodgers here. I don't know how much everyone's going to be, running to vote for Aaron Rodgers, but I mean, I also think like if he has a good year, I think people will still respect him as a quarterback. So I'll go with Rodgers for that one.
Yeah. So next up, Coach of the Year. I'm going to go with Chicago Bears head coach Matt Eberflus. If you tuned into the episode last week, I'm pretty high on the Bears. I think that they'll be competing and I think ultimately make a playoff spot. And I think, considering where this franchise has been with a rookie quarterback, obviously that roster is loaded, but I think this defense was really in shape after they acquired Montez Sweat. I think that continues this season with Eberflus at the helm. And I think the Bears make the playoffs and, kind of looking at, some of these other coaching jobs, obviously, last year with Stefanski winning, he really won it because of all the injuries they suffered. And that's pretty tough to predict. So looking at it from just, success, and I think a team that maybe didn't make the playoffs that will make that leap this year. I think Matt Eberflus does a great job. Maybe the Bears get 10, 11 wins, and I think he takes home Coach of the Year.
Yeah, I did consider Eberflus for this award. Honestly, it came down to I don't think he's like the best, like a top 10 coach. I think he's a good coach, but I think at the end of the day, I think I could see a number of teams kind of overperforming in some ways, and I think when that happens, they'll kind of lean on whichever coach they just think is the best. And the reason I took Dan Campbell here, I think the Lions are just going to kind of be like, not the story of the NFL, because I think everyone knows they're good and is almost expecting them to be really good. But I just think they're going to get talked about a lot. They're going to be playing a lot of fun games. I still think we're certainly in the part of the becoming really good phase where people are definitely rooting for the Lions, as opposed to I don't know anyone that's, obviously besides the rivals and whatever, that's starting to turn on the Lions. I think everyone kind of remembers 2 or 3 years ago and they couldn't win a game and now they're good and everyone's kind of watched this team grow up. So, I mean, I think, people will be rooting for them. I think Dan Campbell is a great coach and I think they're in a position here to win like 13 games. I mean, I think they have 14 dome games, which Jared Goff must be thanking the heavens. Obviously every quarterback's going to play better in good conditions, but I think historically he really struggles in the cold weather games. So I think that will help him as well, but I'll go Dan Campbell here. Do you want to move on to
Yeah, go ahead.
Offensive Player of the Year, maybe?
Yeah. Or do you want to do rookie first or do you want to go to Offensive Player of the Year?
Yeah, let's do had some issues with the air conditioning there. Apologies. Yeah, go with offensive rookie. Do you want to do offensive or defense? Sorry, I don't.
Yeah, offensive is fine.
Okay. For offensive rookie of the year, yeah, I'm gonna go kind of basic here. I wouldn't be surprised if you have this too, but I'll go Caleb Williams.
Hmm.
I mean, I think I kind of said this last episode, but like as much as 4,000 yards isn't necessarily, some Hall of Fame season, I think, for a rookie and for the Bears, it's going to be very, very impressive. Um, and I just think that that's going to garner like a lot of media attention and whatnot. And I just think if he gets to that number, I almost think it would have to be a 1,500 yard season from a Marvin Harrison or something like that to really sway the voters, especially with how kind of quarterback oriented the award voting in the league is. So I'll go Caleb here.
I'm gonna go different just to spice it up. I'm gonna go with Marvin Harrison. I think, Kyler Murray, looking at Harrison versus Neighbors, I think both of them are gonna have great years. I just think Kyler is a much better quarterback than Daniel Jones. He's obviously coming off that ACL injury now, a full year removed from that. And I just think, we saw what Kyler was able to do with a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, who, looking at fantasy perspective, was one of the top wide receivers in fantasy for multiple years with Kyler at the helm. And I think Marvin Harrison is going to come in. Obviously, you've got Trey McBride there. James Conner is going to get the work in the rush game, but I think Marvin Harrison is going to get really the bulk of the targets in this offense. I can see him getting double-digit targets every week, and I think just the talent alone, I think he's going to have a huge rookie year. I like the Caleb Williams pick. Obviously, like I said, I think the Bears are going to have a good year. But I just, to spice it up, I think Marvin Harrison goes out there, catches 100 balls, 1,400 yards, and double-digit touchdowns, and has a huge season. So I'll go with Marvin Harrison. Defensive Rookie of the Year. I'm going to go with a little spicy pick here. I'm going with Jared Verse on the Rams. I think that Rams D line now, no Aaron Donald. Someone's going to have to step up, and I think Jared Verse could be the guy who does it and really has a big year. I think he could be someone who pushes for double-digit sacks already his rookie year. I mean, looking at how Florida State's played the first 2 weeks, he's there. Obviously, he's not the only one that left, but he was a massive part of that defense and a big reason for its success. And now you see what's going on. I think that just, helps illustrate the type of player he is and how impactful he was for that Florida State team that went undefeated last year. And, I've only heard good things about him so far. So I think he has a big year for the Rams. And, this defensive rookie of the year race is wide open. I would not be surprised if some guy picked in the fourth, fifth round or something like that comes out and wins this thing. I think the offensive class was a lot stronger than the defensive class this year. But Jared Verse for me is going to be my pick. I just feel like kind of a gut feeling he has a big year.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I like Versus game a lot, and like you were saying, like I think it's obviously, yeah, very telling that Florida State's really struggled. And this isn't a college. We're not talking about college football this week. We will obviously later as the year goes on, but I do think that's an interesting advertisement for the transfer portal of like, Jared Verse came from the transfer portal. I think he was at like Buffalo or something like that, and then kind of
Yeah.
completely reshaped that Florida State defense, and you can see how they struggle without him. I'm going to go with Leatu Latu. I know my two rookie of the year picks here have been the first offensive player and the first defensive player. So maybe I'm just, very basic here, but I mean, I just think Latu, was like built in a lab to be a very, very good NFL edge rusher, both physically and like just with his complete understanding of the game. I mean, I don't really remember many edge rushers coming out and having this level of technique and different moves they can win with. Like, I mean, even Myles Garrett kind of just won with athleticism. I mean, I think that's a very common thing in the NFL is you see these highly recruited, guys coming into college who go play at a big college, and they're kind of just told to kind of win with their athleticism, and that's awesome. And it works really well in college, obviously, but oftentimes it's just not going to happen when you're facing another one of those guys all the time. But I think Latu, it's not that it's going to be easy to transition to the NFL, but I think he has the technique and everything he needs to win at the NFL level. From day one, I think the Colts front is going to be pretty awesome, but I think he's kind of be like, the piece that takes it over the top. And even if other guys improve, he's kind of the one guy that's, changed here. So in a sense, he'll get a lot of the credit for the defensive line improving as a whole. And like you said, I just don't know how loaded this defensive class is. I mean, I will say it kind of seems like we're getting more edge rusher focused every year with these awards, where not to the extent that quarterbacks dominate the awards, but I think for a cornerback to win Defensive Player of the Year will have to be pretty special or whatever, and certainly not like, a linebacker or a safety or anything like that really in consideration anymore. But even then, especially with this defensive class, I could see it. I just don't see anyone. I don't know if Quinion Mitchell is going to necessarily be a lockdown corner day one. I'd love to see it, but I just think he has some work to do coming from Toledo, from the MAC right to the NFL. It's not going to be easy. And it's corner is a really tough position to play, and a lot of times what people are going to look at is the interception numbers, which can kind of be random a little bit. So I just think Latu will have an awesome year here, and I'm going to go with Latu.
Yeah, no, definitely a good pick. Moving on to Offensive Player of the Year. Seems like the last few years, this award tends to be kind of for a running back, receiver, whereas MVP usually goes to a quarterback. And for my Offensive Player of the Year, I think this player is already running. It might have been the Cooper Cup year though, so I might be wrong. I'm starting to think I'm wrong, but Jonathan Taylor is going to be my pick for Offensive Player of the Year. I
I
think.
believe it was the year prior with Carson Wentz when he won it. I think he won it that year.
Let's see, that Jonathan Taylor won it.
I think it was in 2020 he won it.
Let me see.
No, that might
I
have
felt
been.
like I couldn't remember.
I think you're
Let's
right,
see.
actually. I think you're right.
He's SN Offensive Player of the Year. I don't know if what is SN Offensive Player of the Year? Sporting News, so that's not it. No. AP Offensive Player of the Year 2021 was Cooper Cup. Yeah.
Okay.
So he won the sports, whatever the hell that was. But I think JT this year, there's no contract dispute. There's no injury going into the season, which has been something that he's had the past few seasons. The O-line, maybe it's not as elite as it once was, but it's still really good. You still got Quentin Nelson there. And Zach Moss is gone. Zach Moss took a lot of work away from him last year. He's gone. Trey Sermon is now the RB2, which we've seen Trey Sermon just bounce around a bunch of teams the last few years. And, I think that's indicative of kind of how he is as a player at this point. So if this backfield is going to be dominated by JT, I can see him getting 25 touches a game. I mean, I think he's going to have a huge season. Anthony Richardson's threat of running the ball as well. I think you can get into some fun things with the read option. Obviously, that is a threat to take away some touches, some goal line touches, but I do think Jonathan Taylor in the end will have a huge year. I think he's going to be better catching the ball and have more catches than a lot of these analysts or experts are predicting, just because I don't see anyone else in that offense at that position that's going to be doing that. And Taylor's proved to be a average pass catcher. He's not he can get the job done. So I think JT has a huge year. I think we see him rush for over 1,500 yards. And I think, 12 to 15 touchdowns. I think it's going to be a massive year for Jonathan Taylor. So he's my Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, no, that completely makes sense. I think he's being underdrafted in fantasy for all the reasons you laid out. I could see, like you said, like a bit of the goal line work maybe getting taken out from under him, but I think the efficiency will certainly be amazing. And like you said, there's really no competition for the passing down work. And obviously, once you get the ball in his hands on a passing down, you obviously would much rather him than any of your other running backs, even if, he's not as good of a pass blocker or route runner or whatever. Once he gets the ball, you obviously want him on the field. So certainly could see that as well. For my Offensive Player of the Year, I kind of went a similar route. I went with Bijan Robinson. I think, I just think I kind of hate, I might have brought this up last week, but I kind of hate when everyone's like, oh, this coaching staff was with the Rams like 6 years ago. Like, oh, it's the Todd Gurley role. And it's like, or no, I mean, I think it's just they have a really good running back and they're going to give them the ball. But this offensive line can certainly run block. It's not a question of the talent with Bijan. It's, honestly, I guess the touches, but I'm not really worried about that either. And I think they're also going to throw him the ball a lot too. He's really dynamic. He can run routes. He can get open. And I don't think, maybe Pitts has a breakout like, we're hoping for, and maybe Drake London has another great season, but even then there's still some targets to go around. I mean, I think, I would actually predict that Bijan is third in the team and on the team in targets, if not second, above guys like Mooney and Rondale Moore, who I think are solid players, but I just think you want to give the ball to Bijan more. And I think this offense is going to be really good. So I could see him scoring like 15 plus touchdowns. So I'm going to go with Bijan here.
Yeah, definitely a safe bet. I can very well see him leading pretty much anyone but Drake London, I feel like, in targets in the team. I think London will definitely outpace the rest just with how Kirk loves to chuck it downfield. Defensive player of the year, a lot of good players to choose from, like you talked about, kind of has become an edge rusher award. And I'm going to take one of those players, Micah Parsons. I think this is finally the year he gets it done. I just think the talent is too much. He's just, what is he in year 4, 3, 4?
Sure.
Yeah, so I mean, he's also due for a massive extension. You got to wonder when that's going to come. Um, I mean, the Cowboys are just seems like this could be the last year of Dak Prescott, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, I'm going Micah Parsons. I just think, one of those guys that's due to win this award, and I think he has a big year.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of had the same logic for picking Garrett last year. But I mean, yeah, at a certain point, these guys are just too good in their primes to not win a defensive player of the year. And I think we're starting to get to that point with Parsons. I mean, he's been kind of a monster since he stepped foot on an NFL field, but now he's like really starting to really understand being a full-time pass rusher with all these moves and stuff. And it's scary as someone who's in his division. Yeah, I mean, this Cowboys defense is interesting where it feels like they're almost sometimes better at putting up numbers than good performances in some ways. They get a lot of interceptions and a lot of sacks and turnovers and whatever, but they kind of got killed by the Packers last year. But I wouldn't blame any of that on Micah. Like, I mean, he's elite no matter how you slice it. I don't think there's anyone else that's elite at this point on the defensive line. DeMarcus Lawrence is still a good player, but probably not in that elite tier anymore. The linebacker core is not very good. The safeties are not very good. And the corners do get a lot of turnovers. And I would overall say are good, but I wouldn't say this is some shutdown cornerback room any day of the week, really. So I really do think Parsons carries this defense. And whatever, level of fraudulence it may have really isn't on Parsons to me. So I'm going to agree with you here.
Micah Parsons. And then MVP. I'm going Jalen Hurts. I think I was thinking about Mahomes. I had Mahomes written down while we were going through, and then I just started thinking, and I've said to a lot of people, I think Hurts is going to be QB1 in fantasy this year. I think the rushing upside with him is huge. He's going to be healthy this year, and I just think that offense, was just a disaster at the end of the year. I think under Kellen Moore, not that I think he's kind of got praised as this offensive genius for a while, especially while I was in Dallas, and I think that's, maybe was a little overstated just considering how his teams have ended up doing. But I think this offense is going to be a lot better this year. I think A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, they're both in for huge years. Saquon is going to be great. And I just think Jalen Hurts and the Eagles win this division, win a lot of games. And ultimately, I think they give it to Hurts. And I think, Mahomes has won it, what, is it 3 times now or is it only 2? I think
I
it's
think
3.
twice.
Twice? Okay. So maybe, I'm between those 2 guys. I think, though, some of these voters don't love giving, guys, you see it in other sports as well, especially the NBA, where they don't like to keep giving the same guy MVP. I guess we've seen that now with Jokic, but at least with LeBron, I feel like that's kind of what happened. Could see the same thing happening with Mahomes a little bit. I just think Hurts has a monster year and wins the MVP.
Yeah. I was between the two you were between. So I am gonna go with Mahomes here. I just think, the fact that there was a time, last year, and he is a 2-time MVP, 2018 and
Okay.
20. Between, last year there was a time where people were like, oh, Mahomes is the MVP, and it wasn't a great, super competitive MVP award last year, but I still think that's telling with, again, how different the receiving core is now. I think they're, I kind of predicted this last week as well, but I do think they kind of come out on fire here. Maybe not week 1 against the Ravens, just because really good defense, but from that point on, I really could see this offense just really humming for a while, and Mahomes just has, much better passing stats, and everyone obviously knows it's Mahomes and he's the best, and they're, 13-4 or whatever. So I just don't think there's anything really stopping him from being a clear top candidate in this award.
No, definitely. So there we have it. We'll see. Maybe we'll check back at the end of the year, see how many of these we got right. Probably not many, but that's the beauty of it. And with that, we'll jump right into it. Speaking of Patrick Mahomes, week 1, and on, I guess, the day you'll be watching this, Chiefs-Ravens to open up the season. I'm sure we'll get 1,500 Taylor Swift shots in this one. I saw that. I think it was an official NFL promo that people are upset about because she was featured like 5 times in 25 seconds, and Stroud, Burrow, Brock Purdy didn't even get in there. So look, man, the NFL is very smart. They know what they're doing. They're very smart with what they're doing, even though it may piss off some of their longtime fans. But Chiefs and Ravens in action tomorrow night or tonight, whenever you're watching this rematch of the AFC Championship game. Devin, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be boring here, but I mean, come on, guys. I mean,
We did see the
I
Chiefs lose Week 1 at home last year on Thursday night, so I will
this
put
is
that out
true.
there.
This is true. I believe Chris Jones was missing for that game.
He was in the
Um,
suite. Yes, he was.
yes. But no, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's not that the Chiefs can't lose, and in some ways it doesn't even matter. Just get them to January. Um, I, and I think that almost might start to be their thinking here a little bit, but I just think they're going to come out. I think this would be just a well played football game in the sense, like I don't think there will be too many like dumb turnovers. And I know we've kind of been seeing this the first couple weeks of the year, the last few years, with guys just really stopping playing in preseason as a whole. But I just don't think either of these teams are poor. These teams are too well coached to do that. I don't think that's going to be something these teams suffer from here. And I think the Chiefs defense is still going to be really good. I kind of highlighted the Ravens defense, but I just think the difference here is the Chiefs. I think last year you could make the argument the Ravens actually had the better playmakers between having Andrews and Zay Flowers, and Odell at least, probably trusted more than like Justin Watson or whoever on the Chiefs. But I would say that's evened. I would say the Chiefs offensive line is much, much better, especially on the interior. Um, and I would probably give the Ravens defense the edge, but the Chiefs defense is no slouch as well. And obviously you got Mahomes, you're at home, Super Bowl, ring or whatever they call it, the banner night, whatever it is. Crowd will be going crazy. I just think, script is almost written for this to be a close Chiefs win.
Yeah, I'm going the Chiefs as well. I think they just have Baltimore's number. I feel like. I mean, I know we've seen some games in the regular season where the Ravens have won, but this is going to be like a playoff atmosphere. I mean, Arrowhead at night, it's going to be rocking. It's going to be cold. Not that the Ravens can't play in cold weather, obviously from Baltimore, but I agree. I think this Chiefs team also, they had a lot of offseason noise, just off the field stuff with, not trying to get too into it, but obviously, the Rashee Rice stuff. You had Harrison Butker getting in the news. They had that D lineman who I totally forget what it was, but that was
Not
bad.
good. Not good.
Not good. So I think they're just going to be ready to honestly cancel out the noise, just play football and get back to doing what they do best. And Chris Jones, like you said, such a presence. This will be Derrick Henry's first game as the Ravens. Going to be interesting to see how they use him, how many touches he gets right away. But yeah, I think the Chiefs ultimately win this one. No Marquise Brown, so we're gonna have to wait to see that fully assembled Chiefs wide receiver core. But I mean, they've still got so much talent there. Obviously with Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, but then you got guys like a Juju in there. Justin Watson, who was pretty good for them in clutch moments last year, and obviously Travis Kelce. So yeah, I'm gonna keep it simple. Chiefs win this one. I think pretty not easily, but pretty handily. And then we head to Brazil, Friday night football, Packers, Eagles. This game is going to be very interesting. Seeing the Eagles comments on about the game week 1 was very funny as well. But Packers, very high expectations coming off last year's playoff berth. Josh Jacobs now replacing Aaron Jones at the running back position. The Eagles, obviously, like we talked about, new offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator as well. What are your thoughts on how the Birds open up?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of, addressed this last week, but I think this, season is going to start, kind of how it ends. I think, it'll be easy to tell pretty immediately whether things have changed or not from last off season, or sorry, last season rather. Just in terms of like, can this team handle the blitz, which became a major, major issue at the end of last year? Are they running, more concepts than just, curls and AJ Brown runs a go or whatever, these super, kind of spread style college offense routes, that just felt so like uninspired. And that's really the major thing that has to change. But the defense also really struggled, and I think the defense will be solid, not great this year. But that'll also be a big thing is, if this defense hasn't improved, it'll be, I don't know exactly what the path to improvement is besides these young guys, taking big steps throughout the year. Um, but that being said, I am actually going to go with the Packers here. I think the Packers are really good. I think there's been a lot of distraction with Slay's comments, and I don't think the Eagles are particularly excited to play in Brazil. Not that the Packers are either. I just think the Eagles might not really know exactly what they want to be now. First game without Kelsey that I can remember personally. Obviously first game with Saquon Barkley. This happened last year. Week 1 against the Patriots, they didn't give Swift the football at all. They wouldn't run the ball, which I really hope that doesn't happen. I want to see Saquon get going, especially because I think this Packers run defense is a bit of a weakness here. I think it'll be a really good game, a high scoring games. I lean Packers here. I don't know. There's no home field advantage, or I don't know what the home field advantage will be. I don't imagine it'll be huge either way.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I do think this is a good matchup between two NFC teams that I could see this matchup happening again in January.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with the Eagles. I like the little reverse jinx attempt. I think, the Packers are good, but I just think, like I've talked about, like I think Philly's gonna have a massive year. I think Hurts will show out. It'll be interesting to see kind of who Jair matches up against if they kind of station him on one of AJ Brown or Devonta Smith for the whole game. If he kind of just stays on one side of the field, we've kind of seen him do both things very successfully. Obviously, him versus Justin Jefferson immediately comes to mind. So that'll be interesting. I think, seeing both these running backs in new homes, Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, what did their usages look like? Obviously, Green Bay's kind of traditionally been more of a, split work, but, AJ Dillon's out for the year. Their third round pick, Marshawn Lloyd's out. So kind of what does that look like? Same with Saquon. What does that look like? So I think a
Who's
lot
the
of cool
Packers
things to,
backup?
it's, I think his name's Emmanuel Wilson right now. Um,
Jeez.
yeah, but I have some Josh Jacobs stock and the fantasy guys. Oh my God, Marshawn Lloyd. They think this guy is going to be a hit.
Jesus.
They
They
are,
think it's gonna be
they are
G.
like, I've never seen anything in my life. I think like the fantasy experts over like third string running backs. Like they're just like, oh, it's the year for this guy. It's like, no, dude, they paid Josh Jacobs $12 million to run the football. Like he's going to be running the football. I'm going to pick the Eagles though. I just think they're the better overall team. Um, I like the Packers, but I still am not sold, I guess. Like I need to see it again with Jordan Love for me to really be like, yeah, he was worth that. He got extended, right? Yeah. For him to be worth all that money. But I think he's a good quarterback, but I just think Philly this year is, one of those top 2 teams in the NFC, and I think they come out strong in Sao Paulo. Moving along to some NFC South disgusting football. Carolina versus New Orleans to open up the season. I think New Orleans Stadium just had like I saw something like $500+ million in renovation, so that's good because the Superdome there was in need of a little work, I think. But I will pick the Saints here. I think you're maybe a little higher on the Panthers this year than I am. I still think there's a lot of holes on this team, specifically with the defense. Like you trade away Brian Burns. I just don't really think they have much there. I guess they have JC Horn, who's a solid player, but I don't know. I still think there's a lot of work for this team. The offense should be better. I don't think it could be any worse than last year. You got Deontay Johnson in there now. The O line with they signed Robert Hunt, I think, right? That was where he went. Yeah, so O line should be a little bit better. You got some more weapons for Bryce Young, but still, this team's a few years away, I think, from making the playoffs. So I'll pick New Orleans. I feel like, Derek Carr there. They claim it's a new offensive, mindset this year. It's not. But maybe Chris Olave can have a great year. I feel like he's kind of just stuck in purgatory down there. But I don't know. I'll pick the Saints. I feel like their defense always is like pretty solid too. Like Marshawn Lattimore, Demario Davis, Cam Jordan, like those guys always find a way to get it done. So I think New Orleans wins game 1.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll go with the Saints here too. I think the difference in the defenses here is like massive. And um, I wouldn't go as far to say as the Panthers offense is better than the Saints. I wouldn't be surprised if it is. I just don't think the Saints really have much going for them. Not that the Panthers do either, but I could see a world where Bryce Young is just better than Derek Carr and their offensive line is light years better. I will say this, that when the Saints are on offense, that might be some of the worst like trench play there's ever been. I really can't name much in the Panthers defensive line besides Derek Brown and Jadeveon Clowney. And the Saints offensive tackle situation is an absolute disaster. Um, Especially if Fuaga, the rookie who's going to be starting in his first game, isn't immediately really good, which is pretty hard to do. So yeah, I mean, I'm worried about both these teams in the trenches, kind of on both sides, but especially on that side of the ball for these teams. But I will go with the Saints here. Like, their defense, I think, will make it tough on the Panthers, and I don't think the Panthers defense will make it tough on the Saints offense. Obviously, the Saints offense will be making it tough on themselves, especially
Yeah.
Derek Carr. I will say this, like Derek Carr with a bad offensive line, like it puts me in physical pain just to say out loud. Like, I mean, I just don't think this is going to go well at all. They get, another one of these games against the Panthers. They get, the Bucks a couple times and they have to play the NFC East. So they get a couple winnable games there and whatever. But I just don't know how many serious football games the Saints team is going to win.
Yeah.
But I will go with the Saints here.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Moving along, Vikings at the Giants. Sam Darnold returning to MetLife Stadium, not facing his former team, but Danny Dimes, the return, first career game for Malik Neighbors. And I'm picking the Giants here. I think, I don't think they're going to be very good, but, this just feels like one of those games where the Giants win, the fan base then just gets going. They think they're going to the playoffs. Like Malik Neighbors, this Viking secondary isn't amazing. Like I could see Malik Neighbors kind of going nuclear game one and just, putting up 100 yards a tutty, maybe like 8 catches. So I think the Giants, also their D line, I think, really is going to be good. And I think if they get pressure on Sam Darnold, we haven't really, I guess Carolina is the most recent time where we've seen him starting and it wasn't good there. He had the year in San Francisco. We'll see, but I could see those kind of first game jitters for him a little bit, and especially with the pressure that Giants D line can provide. So I'm gonna pick the Giants here. I think Danny Dimes. It'll be good to see him back on the field. My guy. Yeah, I'm picking the Giants. Why not? I think at home, they always draw a good crowd, and whether you like the team or not, you gotta respect the fans and the fan base because they are very loyal to their New York Football Giants, as they like to say. So I'll go with the Giants here, week one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a strong opinion on how exactly the score will turn out. I do feel pretty strongly that Jefferson is going to have just a nice return to the spotlight type game. I think so weirdly people have kind of forgotten about him, and it's just insane to even say that because he's so freaking good. And I think there's this like, well, Darnold sucks notion, and like maybe, but like I don't think he's the sucks that can't get the ball to guys. I think he's the sucks that takes too many sacks and throws some interceptions. I don't know exactly uh how worsened Jefferson's like targets will be. I think in some ways I could see, Darnold having kind of a Jameis Winston type of year in some ways. And I think Kevin O'Connell's a good offensive mind. I think he might have to embrace that Arnold's going to make some mistakes and really just let him play to try to get the good plays out of him, which, again, I all seems to favor Jefferson here. So I guess that's my little tangent on why I think Jefferson is going to have a big year in game here. I kind of agree with the sentiment you had of like the Giants kind of win this, kind of crappy little 20-16 game or whatever. And all of a sudden, it's 2022 again. And hopefully there's a rude awakening, at some point on, at least for me as a Giants hater here. But I actually will go with the Giants, like you said. I mean, I think, it's hard almost not to be completely blinded by the shit show that was last year. And I don't think Daniel Jones is a needle mover, but he is much better than Tommy DeVito, and Tyrod Taylor was getting hurt, and I don't think he's horrible, but I still do think Daniel Jones has a pretty reasonable advantage there. I think Dable is going to do whatever he can to get the best out of this offense. Not that it's going to be great, but I think he'll squeeze what he can. And like you said, I think a lot of that will go through Neighbors. I kind of think he'll have a similar season to what Waddle had his rookie year, where they couldn't really move the ball downfield. They didn't have a great line. They didn't really know how to use Tua yet. The coaching wasn't good. They didn't have any other good playmakers. So he kind of just said, let's give this guy the ball and let him, make some plays. And Waddle, I think, ended up having over 100 catches as someone who was seen as a deep threat. And that's ultimately been where he's gone since they've kind of figured this offense out. But I think, at least if nothing else, if you can't move the ball downfield, get Neighbors going on screens and slants and drags and whatever. Get him in the open field. He's really, really elusive there as well. So I certainly think he might get completely peppered with targets here. And I think, like you said, the Vikings secondary, I think, again, Flores will do a good job, but I just don't think there's much here. Tragically, they obviously lost Kyrie Jackson in the offseason. And obviously not that, whatever his football impact is what matters here. But I do think he actually could have played a decent role here. Year one, I think they took I'm forgetting his name, a corner in the fourth or fifth round last year, who also was slated to start here and got arrested as well. So I think they're really lacking in the secondary. So I will go with the Giants here. Not that I think either of these teams are great.
Going for the old outside the arena curse on his
It's
rival. We'll see
yeah,
how it
Cowboys
turns
by
out.
50 as well.
Yeah, this next game, I mean, I don't think we really even have to talk about Patriots starting Jacoby Brissett. Obviously, the start of a rebuild there. Drake May gonna sit. We'll see how long. Probably would be wise to sit him for as long as possible, just so he doesn't get beat up by that O line. But I think this will be even if Jamar doesn't play. I guess he honestly has a little bit of leverage here because week one he doesn't necessarily have to suit up, or maybe that means he doesn't have leverage. I don't even know. But week two they play the Chiefs, so they need him then. That whole situation to me is just ridiculous. I think a player sitting out 2 years before free agency is just it's ridiculous. You know, I understand getting your money, but like at the same time, you're an employee, you're contracted. Like I don't know. I don't understand. I understand it. You want to get your money and not risk getting hurt, but at the same time, like it's just getting ridiculous at this point. And at some point, you wonder when the owners are going to put their foot down and be like, "All right, we're just like not going to pay you guys." Probably never because the NFL is just so competitive. But that's my little rant. I don't know. I'm picking the Bengals. I think Joe Burrow. This guy's being slept on, man. I mean, people are not talking about him anymore and really dismissing him. And I think that is a mistake. I mean, he was hurt last year. I mean, we've seen what this guy can do when he's healthy. I think I would not sleep on the Bengals and Joe Burrow because I think we're starting to forget about Joey B and what he did the 2 years prior to last. So I'm picking the Bengals, and I think they have a huge year this year.
Yeah. That kind of reminded I've seen a bit of like anti Joe Burrow, not even a forgetting Joe Burrow, an anti Joe Burrow agenda this offseason. And I mean, do I think would I rather Josh Allen? Maybe. Would I rather Josh Allen in a bad situation? Probably, but in this situation, I think I'd pretty easily take.
Rather Burrow.
Um, yeah, I mean,
Hasn't he? He's beaten him what, once or twice in the playoffs?
once. I mean, I kind of looked back on the Allen playoff career a little bit after last episode. Basically, every game they've lost has been more on the defense than on him. But yeah, that game was, I think, a Burrow kind of masterclass of.
Masterclass, yeah.
I mean, he, really, since Brady is really the best at. I mean, first of all, he can play an empty all day long, which is really, really rare nowadays with all these simulated pressures and how hard it is to stay in the pocket for a long time nowadays. He's able to do it with his awareness of the game pre and post snap. But on top of that, he is just laser accurate. He's just always making the right play for the offense. And then you have Jamar Chase, hopefully, and you have T. Higgins. Certainly you'll have Jamar Chase by the time it matters. I mean, I think as much as I, agree that it's kind of fucked up, it's part of my language here, but, kind of messed up what Chase is doing 2 years before free agency here. But the Bengals have to pay this guy if he's going to really sit out. I mean, it just kind of is what it is. I don't know. I think there is some chance he's like, pay me 40 million a year, and they're kind of really, SOL here. But that's kind of the most intriguing thing here. I haven't talked about the game at all because the Bengals are winning. I don't really know exactly what you do with May because I feel like they're going to get blown out here and probably, a couple other times over the first month or so. But like, I also just think there is a real chance that you throw May out there and it's just a disaster, and even to no fault of his own because
Yeah.
the situation here is so bad.
Yeah.
So I will go with the Bengals here. I will be taking them in my survival pool this week. So we'll see
As
that.
will I.
We'll see that upset in week 2.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I think with the May thing, like I just think they made the decision to start Jacoby. Like you just got to stick with it at this point. Like you're not good. Like the O-line's bad. Just like it's okay. Like this is a development year.
Agreed.
Steelers at Falcons. Russell Wilson making his Pittsburgh debut. Kirk Cousins making his Falcons debut. First game as a head coach for Raheem Morris, which is exciting. I think the Falcons win this one. I think this offense is going to be a lot better this year. I think Drake London's in for a big year. I think Kyle Pitts, this is maybe the year. It's either this year or no year for Kyle Pitts. It's now or never. And I think, like you said, Bijan is going to be having a monster year. And this defense should not be slept on either. They made some big additions to it. Recently, Matthew Judon, Justin Simmons. I mean, Justin Simmons, Jesse Bates, that's one of the best safety duos out there at the end of the day. And you got AJ Terrell at the cornerback position. Like this defense could be really good this year. Grady Jarrett manning up the middle of that D line. Like this Falcons team should win the AFC or NFC South with ease. And I'm picking them in this game. I just think Pittsburgh. I just don't think this team is good at all. I mean, the defense is always going to be competitive, but this offense is pure trash. Like I'm just going to say it. Like they are bad. They didn't address the receiver position at all outside of adding Roman Wilson, but they lost Deontay Johnson, so that's a net negative in my opinion. And George Pickens, sure, he's got that big play potential, but I just don't think he's a number one in this league. I just haven't seen it from him yet. And O-line is maybe a little better, but neither of their running backs are needle movers as well. I think the Steelers' offense is going to be bad, and I think the Falcons are going to win this game by over 10 points.
Yeah, I mean, certainly talent-wise, the Falcons are way better, but you do just get the sinking feeling this is somehow going to be a really close game. Yeah, I mean, I do think the Steelers' defense is pretty damn good, but yeah, their offense is going to be bad. I think obviously both of these teams are much better on one side of the ball. Arthur Smith revenge game here. That's another thing is like he was pretty good as an offensive coordinator in the past, but like I don't really trust him to make this offense work. So I don't know. I'm very worried about the Steelers offense as well. I will go with the Falcons, but I do certainly see this kind of just finding its way to being a one possession game randomly late in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. And the Russ interception ends it. No. Texans Colts. This is a good week 1 game. AFC South. A lot of people are high on this Colts team and Anthony Richardson. CJ Stroud, obviously, with that new offense. I'm going to pick the Colts. I just got a gut feeling. I think the Texans are winning this division. I think they're going to be really good, but I just feel like this is one of those games at home. The Colts get it done. I think JT, my offensive player of the year pick, gets a big game at home. I think this Texans defense is going to be okay, but it's not amazing at the end of the day. I think, you got Will Anderson, you bring in Danielle Hunter. They brought in that linebacker. Is it Aziz Al-Shahir? I think Shahir. I botched that, but apologies to him. But he's a good player. I think Jimmy Ward's still there in the secondary. It's Stingley. So they got pieces, but overall as a unit, I just don't think it's amazing. I think JT is going to be able to run over this team. And, I just think this is one of those weird games where the Colts win. Stroud, I think he plays well, but I don't know. It's kind of a gut feeling. I think the Texans are the better team. I just think, this is one of the games the Colts win. So I'll pick the Colts.
Yeah, I am gonna go with the Colts as well. I think the line here has moved like 4 points in the Texans. Like the Texans, I think were
To the Texans.
to the Texans. I think they were slight favorites to begin, and now they're about 4-point favorites in Indy here. Um, And I don't necessarily think that's crazy, but at the same time, I just think there's kind of something, the Colts are at home here. They have some hype. A lot of, the public, the quote unquote dumb money is on the on the Texans here. Um, and yeah, like I just kind of have a gut feeling. I do think the Texans are probably the better team and certainly have a much higher floor here with the questions
Yeah.
of, the large range of Richardson's outcomes. Um, but at the same time, I think the defense is still somewhat concerning for the Texans. I kind of think the Colts defense can show up here. I think could be a good introduction for my defensive rookie of the year pick, Leatu Latu. Um, yeah, I mean, I think this will honestly end up being an important game, but I do think both of these teams will be kind of different by the end of the season just because they have a lot of youth and a lot of kind of moldability in where they could go. But I will go Colts here in a close one.
Yep, should be a good matchup. As is this one, Cardinals Bills. Marvin Harrison Jr.'s debut. The Buffalo Bills, really a new look offense. I don't know if Curtis Samuel's playing. I think he's a little banged up. But you've got Dalton Kincaid, James Cook. I think are the two guys that I think are going to break out in this offense this year. Khalil Shakir as well. Maybe Keon Coleman gets in the mix later in the season. The defense also, kind of in a overhaul right now with guys like Trey White leaving this past offseason. Who's going to step up on that defense? If you hear me, I listened to the podcast last week. I'm not super high on this Buffalo team, but I think at home week one, I do think they still get this win. I think this is one of those games where Josh Allen just powers them to victory. He's just overmatched. I think they get the run game going early with Allen and Cook. A few passes here. I think Kincaid and Dawson Knox, the combination of them, maybe combined for like 15 receptions. Like I think the tight ends on this team this year are going to be going nuclear. I just think you got to get those two guys involved. I think they're the two best pass catchers that team has. So I'm going to pick Buffalo. I think Arizona is going to have a solid like 7-win season this year. I don't think they're going to be bad, but they're still transitioning as well, improving. So I'm going to go Buffalo here. I just think Josh Allen is going to be too much ultimately for Arizona to handle.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think this has the makings of a shootout. I think the Bills offense might struggle, getting the ball down the field and, having receivers who can really get open consistently against good corners. Luckily for them, I don't think they're playing many good corners here in week one. I think they will be able to move the ball pretty easily, and I think the Cardinals will as well. But I think, like you said, I think kind of Josh Allen powers them to victory. I think this is probably in the higher scoring, 30, high 20s type of range. Because I do think the Cardinals offense will be pretty good as well. And I don't think the Bills defense will be super good either. So I think both teams will be able to move the ball, but I just think, maybe clutch Josh Allen rushing touchdown or something like that gets them the win here in week one.
Yeah, I can definitely see that happening. Kyler, maybe it'll be interesting to see him also this year. Full year removed away from that injury. Next game, Titans at the Bears. Will Levis versus Caleb Williams. Obviously, this game is going to be the atmosphere is going to be electric. I mean, just as someone who goes to school in Chicago, I know what the vibe is there. I mean, it is the hype, the hope. It is at an all time high with this team. I mean, you just see Chicago like give them credit. Like they are a great sports town. Like the way that they pack Wrigley Field every night, no matter how that team is, it's just impressive. Same thing with the Bulls. Like I went to a Bulls game
Say.
this year. Like the Bulls are trash, and like that's they probably have they're in probably the top 10 of attendance in the NBA. Like
I think
it's
even
crazy.
better.
Yeah, like they really show up, and the Bears are that team that they want the most. And now you got Caleb Williams there. I think a week one loss here would just be awful for them. And I think if Caleb somehow threw like 2, 3 picks here, not that you'd be in total panic, but Bears fans are just would be like, oh my God, like, no, like this can't be happening. I do think they get the win though. I think Tennessee I think it's going to be a very close game. I think this could be game winning field goal type close. I think this Tennessee team made big improvements in the offseason. You replace Derrick Henry with Tony Pollard. You do have Tajee Spears there. So the running back room probably takes a hit, but Calvin Ridley is going to be good for them. L'Jarius Sneed on the defensive side, I think, is going to have a really big year. The O line, you draft J.C. Latham. Now you've got the legend himself, Bill Callahan leading that offensive line. So, guys like Latham, Skoronski, those 2 first-round picks last 2 years, those guys, if they could develop, that would be massive for the left side of this offensive line. And Will Levis, he's got a shot here this year to prove he's the franchise guy. Otherwise, they might have to look elsewhere this offseason. But I think the Bears come out strong. Like I said, I'm high on this team. I think the defense is going to be good. And the offense, I mean, I think they're just going to be hard to guard. Like, I just don't know how you guard those 3 receivers at the end of the day. So I'll pick the Bears week 1.
Yeah, I kind of agree with your point of if they do lose this game, it would kind of cause a panic when in reality that probably isn't necessary. That, your rookie quarterback wasn't 100% ready to come
Yeah.
one and dominate. Not that I think he'll have a bad game necessarily. I will go with the Bears here, though. I think, like you said, it's going to be hard to deal with those receivers. Titans have some good corners, but probably not the corners, quite to match up with all 3 of those guys. And I just think, I don't know, the Titans just have a lot of okay, I like Calvin Ridley. I like DeAndre Hopkins. I don't think at this stage that's a dynamic receiving core. I
Yeah.
like they're doing with the offensive line. I still don't think it's going to be great this year. I like what they've done with the defense. I still don't think the defense is going to be great, and I think they will take a step back, losing Mike Vrabel, who is still a great defensive mind, and got them to play super hard on defense. So I do think they take a step back defensively, and I just don't know if they can quite handle the Bears here.
Yeah. Give me that. I am very excited for that game
Me
just
as well.
because I think it's going to be fun to see this offense. Jags at Dolphins. New look Jags offense a little bit. Calvin Ridley out, Gabe Davis, Brian Thomas in. Miami, obviously losing some guys on the defensive side, but you've still got the core of that offense there. Going to be interesting to see. I know fantasy owners, the running back split there between Mostert, A-Chain. I am going to pick Miami here. This is a home game for them. I just see Tyreek going for 200 yards week 1 and just having a monster game against this Jacksonville secondary. I don't think there's really anyone that they have that can guard him. Waddle could also have a huge game. I mean, I think Tua is going to throw for like 350 yards, 4 touchdowns, and they just win maybe I think the Jags will put up some points, but I just think Miami's offense is going to be tough to stop for Jacksonville in this one. So I'm picking the Dolphins.
Yeah. I think we should get a counter this year for how many times I say that the Dolphins are much better, in hot weather in Miami against bad defenses than they are, in tough situations. But I mean, this is your game in Miami in September against a bad defense. So here we go. I mean, I think the line here is kind of interesting. I saw 2.5 points to the Dolphins. And I mean, first of all, just
I
with the
would
home,
get that in your parlays, ladies and gentlemen.
yeah. I mean, first of all, that's just implying they think the Dolphins are even to slightly worse team than the Jags on a neutral field, which I just don't get at all. And I think I mean, this is a team that the last 2 years has come out on fire in these types of games, and then also had these early season kind of wrinkles, gimmicks, whatever you want to call it, with the I think it's called like the cheat motion or whatever they call it, where they were motioning guys out so they could kind of already get moving by the start and not have to deal with press coverage and whatever. And I think Mike McDaniel is one of those guys is going to kind of be walking all over this Jags defense. He's had like 4 months to plan for this game. I think he's staying up at night thinking about, every single variation he wants to run here and whatever. And I do think the running back split will be interesting. And I don't think the Jags are necessarily going to be horrible. I could see it going pretty badly, but I don't project them as some 5-win team. But I just don't think this is the matchup for them. I don't like this matchup at all.
No, I think the Jags they're in a weird spot in their organization right now where it's like you've just paid your quarterback, like you've got pieces, but it's also like you've been doing the rebuild, but it's like where are like the stars outside of like I guess Trevor and maybe like ETN and Evan Ingram's been solid, but like and Josh Allen. I always forget about Josh Allen. And I don't know. Like it's the Jags are a
No,
weird
you're
spot.
right.
Maybe they should have traded that first overall pick away, like the Bears did, and just gotten a coup. Because it feels like Trayvon Walker's a good player, but it's just not the difference, He's not the difference maker. I guess that was the bad quarterback draft, though, right?
That's what I was gonna say. Is I don't think you would have gotten nearly what the Bears got.
No.
But I still agree with the sentiment, or just take. I mean, it's obviously much easier in retrospect, but take the elite player. Like, why didn't they take Sauce or Garrett Wilson? I understand those guys don't go number one overall, but receivers get paid like top edge rushers now. It's those are
Yeah.
very close in terms of the top non-quarterback
If they
position.
took Sauce, that would be it'd be a completely different look for the defense for sure.
Exactly.
But thank you for not. I can't. But that Jets draft, I mean, that might be one of the greatest drafts of all
Oh
time.
yeah,
Sauce, Brees, Garrett, and Jermaine Johnson. I mean, that is. If Joe Douglas has done anything right, it was that
it's
draft.
that.
Broncos at Seahawks. Do these teams just play like week one every year now? It's like tradition, like at Seattle, week one. Bo Nix's first career start. I mean, this Denver team, they paid Pat Surtain today, so congratulations to Surtain. I know that was a guy who it seemed like was in trade rumors, but good for Denver for locking him down. I mean, that's definitely the guy you want to build that defense around. Um, I'm picking Seattle here at home. Denver's just not going to be that great this year. I don't think. I think Bo Nix could have a decent year. Like, I think he's not going to be the rookie quarterback where it's like, oh my god, like this guy, like he just can't get it done. Like he has a lot of college experience. Like he's going to get the ball out, he's going to complete his passes, but like there's just not really anyone to throw to. Frankly, like they got Cortland Sutton, Javante should have a solid year, but like outside of that, it's like there's
Yeah.
nothing. Like there's nothing there. So I am interested. Like the Cortland Sutton thing in our fantasy league, like I picked him and he was there very late. And I'm thinking to myself, like, when he's on the board, I'm like, who is going to catch passes in this Denver? Like, could Cortland Sutton have a sneaky, like, really good year? Like, this offense might be so bad that, like, he doesn't, but, like, also, like maybe he just balls out this year. I don't know. I'm kind of drinking the Cortland Sutton Kool-Aid a little bit. I feel like he could be a wide receiver too in fantasy for sure. Like, I just feel like I think he's going to have a big year. So I don't know. That's a side note, me trying to hype up my boys. But Seattle, you know, this might be the last year of Geno. You just don't really know what's going on. I want to see Jackson Smith and Jigba more involved. Like I said, this defense, Byron Murphy should have a nice impact, and they're just in a weird spot again, where it's like, yeah, they're probably good enough to make the playoffs, but like, are they good enough to win the Super Bowl? Like, no, but like, I don't know. It's a weird spot to be in, but Seattle should win this game at home week one.
Yeah, I will agree with that. I think this defense will be improved and give the Broncos some troubles. I do agree. I don't think Knicks will be a disaster. That being said, I don't think, in 2 or 3 years you'll look at this pick and say, awesome, we got Bo Nix, but I don't think he'll be a disaster. And I agree with what you said about Cortland Sutton. I've kind of been targeting him in some drafts. Haven't gotten him yet, but I certainly have considered it. I think we're almost blinded by the level of incompetence we saw, from the New York teams and whatever last year. And it's just like, it's more rare than people think that a team like can't move the ball at all. Like, the Broncos will, accumulate 300 yards most games, you'd have to imagine. And like you said, like, where is it possibly going to go? Like, it can't all just be draws and screens, Sean Payton. Um, as much as he may want that to be the case. So I agree he will have a good year here, but not too much to talk about with the Broncos and probably more to talk about with the Seahawks, but not that I think either of us project them to really go super far this year.
No, I actually just thought of a good comp, I think, for Cortland Sutton this year, and it's Adam Thielen last year. Like you look at that Panthers offense, terrible, but like he was the only one who could get the ball. And like there was like a 6 week stretch where he was like top five receiver in fantasy. So I could very well see that happening with Cortland Sutton this year. I'm actually loving that comparison because I think it is very
That
realistic.
might be better.
Yeah, and Cortland Sutton at this point, yeah, like he's maybe got a little more talent than like the 32-year-old Adam Thielen. But
Yeah.
like that's the thing, like what you said, like someone has got to get the ball. Like that, like even in these bad offenses, like someone is gonna go have a day. And not that he's gonna do it every single game. Like Adam Thielen tailed off eventually and was very mediocre, but do I see a 5 game stretch where Cortland Sutton is averaging 18 fantasy points? I think so. I think that's very well in the possibilities. this is I don't know what I wanted. Hopefully they don't show this one too much on Red Zone. Raiders, Chargers. These are both interesting stories, I guess, this year. You've got the first year of the Harbaugh era in LA, which you're going to rebuild. Obviously, that offense, you lose Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. What does it look like this year? And the Raiders, obviously, kind of going for it, I guess, with Gardner Minshew, but you got Tay Adams there. I think he could have a big game this week. Zamir White now the RB1 there. Does he have the potential to burst? I don't know. I will pick the Raiders here. I think they're the better team. I think, that pass rush late in the season and this defense as a whole really took off under Antonio Pierce. And I think this Chargers offense is just going to take a few weeks to get in any sort of groove, I think. I mean, Herbert's basically thrown to all new players. Lad McConkey, who a lot of people think is going to be his top target, is playing his first career game this week. So can't expect him, to necessarily ball out right away. Being like a second round wide receiver, kind of to take on the top wide receiver duty is a tough task. And the run game for this team, I don't think is gonna be very good. Like, I don't know. The Chargers, I think this team wins like 5, 6 games this year. The Raiders maybe could sneak in an 8-win season, depending on how the defense plays, maybe 9. Like, I don't know. I think
Maybe.
The Raiders, I think, will be the second best team in this
Agreed.
just because the bottom 2 teams are so bad. So I think this is a game for them that if they have any hope of making the playoffs, this is a must win for them because you got to beat up on the Chargers and you got to beat up on the Broncos and then play kind of average the rest of the way and you can maybe sneak in. So I think the Raiders take this one. I just think, you know, the way they finished the season was really strong and I think they can continue that for sure. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you said. I think you'll agree with this as well. I would definitely say I like what the Chargers are doing long
Yeah.
term.
Oh yeah.
And I think they've made the conscious and correct decision to, in some ways, punt on the roster this year,
Yeah.
and get themselves out of this cap hellhole they were in. And again, I fully agree with that. But, like you said, I mean, Lad McConkey's first game, and like it's almost like, he needs to have 80 yards day one, or this passing offense won't be productive. Because I think Josh Palmer is a good number 3, maybe even a solid number 2, but I don't know if he could possibly become a real difference maker, even like a good number 2. I just think is a little far-fetched. So and even McConkey, who I do really like, I really like the tape. He had some injury issues in college, and Georgia had Brock Bowers, and they never really needed to throw the ball a ton if they didn't want to. So to be honest, he wasn't the most productive college player. I know some racial, stereotypes would maybe make you
Whoa.
think,
Dev, where are we going here?
so would maybe make you think he was quite a productive college player. But in fact, I actually think he's someone with immense talent here to get better. And again, though, I just think there's too much on his plate from day one to really expect his passing offense to be good. And Raiders have some playmakers. The O-line's solid. I think Minshew is passable and the D-line is good. So I just think there's more to like, day one about the Raiders. I think, we'll see some of the culture stuff from day one. I think they'll be less stupid and do less comical things, but I don't think that really can, save them just in terms of the talent deficit they're facing.
Yeah, no, for sure. Brock Bowers now on the Raiders as well. So matchup between the former Georgia Bulldogs there. Uh, this is the game of the week, I'm sure, on Fox. Cowboys at Browns. I guess this will be Tom Brady's first call. It's
Yeah.
got to be, right?
Yep.
That's got to be the game they're going to.
It is. I think I saw an ad for it, and the thing they were advertising was that it was Brady's first game.
So that'll be very interesting. Dallas at Cleveland. Battle of 2 really good defenses. Deshaun is back. CeeDee Lamb obviously will play after that contract dispute's over. This is a tough one, Dev. I'm gonna let you go first here. I don't know who I'm picking.
I am gonna go with the Browns here. This is maybe the reverse jinx I should be going for, because I do really think this game will be telling for the Cowboys, because you got 2 rookies starting on the offensive line, and
That's not a D line you want to be starting next year.
Yeah. So I mean, not that they're completely screwed if it doesn't go well, but I certainly wouldn't project it to go well. But if they're somehow able and ready for this Browns pass rush, I mean, I think this Cowboys offense could be really awesome. Um, I do think it'll be good overall, but I think, getting back to this top five offensive line both helps you reestablish the run game, and then you obviously have that Dak and CD, connection, but having an awesome pass protecting offensive line obviously won't hurt that. So I do think this is kind of a telling game for exactly how good the Cowboys offense can be here. And I obviously think it's telling for the Browns in terms of like, what does Deshaun Watson look like? I mean, we talk about put up or shut up time for Kyle Pitts, and it's true, but I mean, I don't know if there's any more put up or shut up time for anyone in the league besides Deshaun Watson. It's been really bad. Last year was really bad besides that Ravens game, which I guess was our last memory of him. So, you'd like to think that he can get it back, but the year before that was arguably worse. He's been made some boneheaded plays. He looks slower. He doesn't look like he has the confidence in himself anymore. So I wouldn't project it to go super well either for either of these offenses, to be quite honest. I think the Cowboys will struggle to pass the ball, and I don't know how good their run game is here with Rico Dowdle and 2017's finest, Dalvin Cook and Ezekiel Elliott here. Um, but I just, yeah, I mean, I'm not super confident that either of these teams are going to score the ball super well. I will go Browns here. I kind of just think tough game to start with two rookie offensive linemen. I know it's cliche, but it's true that it's going to be a tough day for, your introduction to the NFL to go deal with Myles Garrett and Zadarius Smith and all those guys. I just don't think it's going to be easy. So I will go Browns here.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick the Browns too. I just think Dallas is going to have no rushing game whatsoever this season. I think it's going to be a problem. I think CD, is going to he's going to have a monster year, but this is a tough matchup for him as well. I mean, you've got Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, and Martin Emerson at the cornerback position. Then Grant Delpit's, emerged as a really strong safety in the league. And I forget who else they put back there, but, this is a very good Browns defense. The D line is extremely good. Jim Phillips does a great job with it. And it's Jim Phillips or
Jim Schwartz.
Jim Schwartz. I was like, Jim Phillips does not sound right. Um, so yeah, I agree. I think the Deshaun is, yeah, like pressure's on. Like he's got to get it done. Obviously, you've got Jameis and DTR there if things go south. But I mean, that is your guy. He's locked in for the next 3 years. So, you know, they need to see it. And, we haven't seen, and if you're going to look at, upside, I guess, with him, it's like he hasn't gotten a full season yet with Cleveland. He hasn't had a full season yet. He had that and he started to look a little bit better last year at times. And I think this receiving core is finally pretty solid. Like I think Amari Cooper, I think Jerry Jeudy is a guy who now out of Denver, maybe he's got some new life and got an extension, and maybe we see, what we saw at Alabama with him. And Elijah Moore is not under that much pressure this year. And Njoku is a great out. Like I think that the options are there. Like there really is no excuse. He's playing behind arguably the best offensive line in the league, I would say. Like there is zero excuses for Deshaun Watson. He's, like you said, got to go out there and get it done. And, I think this Cowboys team right now, no Deron Bland week one. I just think they got to find their identity a little bit with some changes. And I think Cleveland, it's going to be an ugly game, I think, but I think Cleveland just figures out a way to kind of get it done. And I mean, the dog pound's going to be going crazy there. So I think that also plays a factor here. If this game was at Jerry's World, I think Dallas would definitely get the W. So I think this is one of those where kind of swings based on who's the home team. So I'll go with the Browns. And leading into this one, Jaden Daniels, NFL debut. Dev, does he start 1-0 or does he do the LSU and start 0-1 like his alma mater?
I do think they get a win here. I think the Bucks passing defense is certainly attackable. I think the Bucks are a pretty prime candidate for some regression here. We kind of talked about this last episode, but Baker had a really good year, and I don't think he's gonna be bad, but I do think he probably played about as well as you can expect. And this is a core that's been aging for years. Levante David and Mike Evans have been kind of timeless wonders, but you have to wonder if eventually time does run out. And Godwin hasn't been the same player in a few years. Vita Vea struggled to stay healthy. You lost Shaq Barrett. You lost Jamel Dean. No, sorry, they traded Carlton Davis. I apologize. But still, you lost the starting corner, who I think was a good player. You lost Sean Murphy Bunting as well a couple years ago. I take that back. He was on the Titans last year. But still, I mean, the secondary isn't very good. I don't even know exactly who they're starting here on the outside alongside Jamel Dean. So I think this is a good spot for the Commanders to get a sneaky upset win and build some excitement for the start of this year. What about you?
I'm gonna go with the Bucks. I think Washington, to me, there's still question marks on that offense. I don't think the line is okay. It's not great. Outside of Scary Terry, there's really no one to throw the ball to. It's kind of a Denver Broncos situation. And like the running backs, like Brian Robinson, you know, could have a solid year, but you got Eckler there as well. It's kind of a fantasy nightmare, I think, with those two guys. Not that they can't be good in real life. I think they actually will be decent, the duo of them. But I think the Bucks are, I just think they're not amazing, but they're good at what they do. Like the offense, like Baker kind of just being in a spot where he can throw it up to Mike Evans or, feed Rashad White a check down or find Chris Godwin short. Like it works. And I think, at home, Tampa Bay, you know, I just think they find a way to get it done. I think they're a solid team. The O line with Tristan Wirfs is not terrible. You got Vita Vea leading the defensive line. Like Antoine Winfield had a all pro. I don't know. I think he got all pro. He should have if he didn't.
Sure.
He had a crazy season last year. He's back. Like I like the Bucks here. I could see I think Jaden Daniels is gonna be a stud. I just think they need a little bit more around him before we see that full, MVP type potential that I think, he could have. Um, I just think it'll take a little getting used to for this offense. So I'm gonna go Tampa Bay. Moving on to the two primetime games. I think the two best games of the week outside of really the best games of the week are all the primetime. The Thursday game, the Friday game, the Sunday night game, and then the Monday night game are really the best games of the week, which I guess is good. So on Red Zone, you can kind of just enjoy the bits and pieces from all these teams, not have to miss out on a really good game. Rams at Lions. Matt Stafford once again comes back to Detroit. I hope this time he can finally. I really hope they can this time honor him and give him the full recognition he deserves. Because I think, last time coming back for the playoff game, it was just a tough time. It's the way that Lions franchise has worked in recent years. It wasn't going to be this sappy,
Happy.
sappy, kind of reunion that I think it deserves to be just for how good he was in Detroit. So I hope we see a little more of that, but maybe not. I am picking uh, I'm picking the Rams. I'm picking the Rams. I think the offense is gonna be really good this year. They stole Jonah Jackson away from the Lions, so I think he might be hurt though. I think he's okay. I don't know. You know, Kyron Williams, Blake Corum, I think is a really good running back duo. I think Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, both of them being healthy at the start of the year is massive. And this Detroit team, I still think they're gonna have a huge season, but I think this is just one of those games where Matthew Stafford just gets the job done and the Lions, it's tough picking against the Lions because I really like them and they're really good, but I think, you know, it's kind of just a gut feeling that I think the Rams pull it out. Matthew Stafford in prime time, gets a big win over his former team. So I don't know. Not really much justification. I think this offense is going to be really good though. And the Lions are going to be really good too. I think this is just two great teams going at it, and I think the Rams get it done ultimately. So yeah.
Yeah, I will lean Lions here. I just think they're more complete. Crowd's going to be going crazy. I agree with what you said. I mean, Stafford is uh really a legend for the Lions and really underappreciated in a lot of ways. especially nowadays, like he's still just as good as he's always been, and no one really realizes that. Or no one talks about it at least. But
Yeah.
I will go with the Lions here. I just think the Rams defense is going to struggle. I don't know if they'll get much of a pass rush. I don't know if they'll be able to stop the run at all. Aaron Donald, obvious, but big loss here. And then, defensively, I would project the Rams to definitely be able to move the ball. But I think the Lions defense has only gotten better, and pretty decently so. I would say. I think the pass rush got better. I think the run defense got much better with DJ Reader. And I think the secondary, maybe not day one will be much better, but I think by the end of this year, this secondary will be vastly, vastly improved with the additions they've made. So I will go Lions here, but I certainly don't disagree. I think the Rams are a good team and capable of winning these types of games, even on the road.
Yeah.
And you wanna go to the last game
Yeah.
now? Yeah. So I mean,
I can't believe they booked Monday night again for the Jets.
well, and who's on the Niners, Griff, is Leonard Floyd. So
I mean, you actually can't. He's getting a sack the first drive, 100%.
I
Like,
think you have to let it happen, but then just get it over with, I guess, and
yeah, and just
then
pray
the
that
game
it
can
doesn't
start.
go
Yeah,
bad.
pray it doesn't snap the other Achilles. But yeah, no, I mean, I think this, as you said, all these primetime games have a lot of excitement, a lot of intrigue. Salah, going back to San Fran, obviously that's not like some heated thing or anything. I'm sure they'll, be happy to see their old friend, but I think that'll be fun. And I just think these are two really, really awesome rosters. I think, we can talk and will talk ad nauseum about the Jets' health issues and the age and whatever and how good this offense can be. But week one, I think everyone projects to be healthy. I think Mike Williams has had almost a full year to recover from the ACL tear, so I wouldn't expect a huge I guess ramp up period or whatever it is for Mike Williams. I think he'll mostly be himself. I think Tyron Smith will start the season healthy, which certainly, it makes you feel good about your offensive line week one. Trent Williams, like literally just reached a contract extension with the Niners. He hasn't been with them like all offseason. So I'd imagine he'll play. I'd imagine he'll be Trent Williams, but that is something to watch out for, especially with this Jets front. I There's no way Reddick is going to play. I'd have to
No,
imagine.
no.
Well,
He had it. Do you see he had like a charity event in Jersey the other day? I mean, this guy is just. I honestly am like starting to hate him. Like, it's
no,
like, dude,
I don't
like,
blame you.
what are you doing? Like, you have zero. Like, Jamar Chase has leverage. Hassan Reddick has no
No,
leverage. Like, this guy will just. He could rot for the rest of his career on this Jets team. Just never like because like. Jamar is essential for the Bengals' success. Hassan Reddick is like it's what Salah said. I actually agree. It's like, oh, it's like finding loose change in your pocket at this point. Like the Jets defense is going to be really, really good with or without him. It'd be better with him, but at this point, he's like 30 years old or however old he is. Like he is not going to be someone that they're like, oh my God, we have to get this deal done, or like we can't start the season. Like they're going to play the whole year without him if they have to, and he'll be contractually obligated to them next year. So it's just, I don't know. Sorry. It's a rant, but I just don't understand what the game plan is from his. I understand you want to get paid, but like, dude, it's not happening. Like, you got to realize that the Jets they've put their foot down and they're clearly not moving away from their stance that you have to be in the building before we're even thinking about an extension or deal.
Yeah, no, I like that logic. I just don't know if it's what the quickest way is to get Reddick on the field. And frankly, like you said, it doesn't quite matter as long as you have him by the end of the year, in the form he needs to be. I think you'll be fine here, and the precedent that they're setting does matter, like you're saying. So I don't disagree with what they're doing, but it doesn't help to not have him.
No, yeah.
That being said, though, I do think this game matters a lot for the Jets. I don't think the Niners could lose this game by 30, and I think everyone would be like, the Niners will probably be fine. But if the Jets, were to get blown out, I think the panic button is, pushed by the third quarter. So it matters, both in the media, narrative sense, but I do think it matters for this Jets team to prove to themselves how good they are, because it's not been proven yet, but I think they are really good. I know they're really talented, and I know they have the fit that makes sense for this team to really compete. So I think this game matters. I think Rodgers is going to come out, pissed off. What Rodgers is exactly at this point, I think, is a very big question to ask. But I will pick the Jets here. I do think they go and get a big, kind of premier type win to start the season and get this season really going.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick the 49ers. I think the Jets will play well. Like, I don't think it's a question of that. I just think like Aaron Rodgers played 4 snaps last year. Like, this offense has not like, they may have practiced a lot, but like they haven't seen the in-game action yet. And like, you've got new pieces to the O line. Like, I think the O line is going to take a week or two to like really come together. Mike Williams, Malachi Corley, guys who are expected to play a role in the offense, obviously are new. Um, I just think it's going to take a little time for this offense to gel and really hit its stride. That I think by the end of the season, like, it's going to be really good. And I think Garrett Wilson's in for a huge year. I think Breece Hall's in for a huge year. I think they've got a lot of talent in the wide receiver room. I think this team is going to be just fine. But I mean, you look at San Francisco, like, they got all their contract stuff sorted out. Like, Ayuk, Trent Williams are going to be there. CMC's back on the practice field. Like, this team has just played so many games together, this core, and like they just have it down to a science at this point. And I think they're the best team in the NFC. I think, the Jets defense is really good and it's going to be a tough test for them, but I just think they've got so many weapons. It's so hard to guard. And I just think they come out at home on Monday night and just get the win. I think, if this game was in New York, I might pick the Jets, but I just really think the Niners are good. And I think the Jets right now need a week or two to really get things going and get that chemistry together that they will by the end of the year. Their schedule also, like, because of the season they had last year, like, their schedule isn't too bad. Like, they're going to be fine. Like, they have whatever it is, a third place schedule. So, the Jets are going to be fine. I'm not worried about them. Even if I don't think they'll get blown out. I just don't think their defense has it in them to get blown out with the offense being so improved. Like last year when they were going 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, like, yeah, your defense is going to get tired and you're going to get blown out. But like, I don't think that's going to be the case. Like, I think this will be a competitive game. I just think ultimately San Francisco, they've just got it down to a science. Kyle Shanahan does, and they have elite playmakers that, as good as the Jets offense is, they don't have the playmakers that San Francisco does at the end of the day, period. So I'm picking the Niners. But I mean, if the Jets somehow pull this off, I mean, we're going to be hearing, Mike Greenberg on ESPN, who's a big Jets fan, really Tuesday morning declaring a Jets Super Bowl is on the way. So it should be a fun game. And that does it for the week 1 slate. I mean, I can't believe football is like 36 hours away, or
It's like
less than
Christmas.
that, I guess, at this point from when we're filming this, more like 30. Think we finally made it. The Mets and Phillies have gotten us here. Hopefully their season continue. The Phillies definitely will. The Mets, hopefully their season can keep continuing, although that might not be good for my health, but alas, we're here. And obviously, as the MLB season and the college football season both kind of, keep going, we'll be touching on that. But we just wanted to do all things NFL today. And yeah, that's what I got. So if you want to wrap it up, Dev, that's good with me.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. NFL season, tomorrow I'll be waking up like a kid on Christmas again.
And
I
then
don't
the
get that
best thing is there's a game on Friday too.
Friday.
So it's just like, and then it's like, okay, Saturday's college football all day. Like, we're
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're really entering the spoiled part of the year as football fans here. It's I mean, the off season's not fun as a football fan. It
It's
feels like
long.
forever.
Yeah.
You finally get around the corner, it feels awesome. So I'm really excited. We'll be back with these weekly recaps and like Griff said, more baseball as the playoffs really get started and college football as well, obviously, as the season goes along. We have Texas, Michigan this week. That'll be a
Great
fun
game.
game.
Yeah.
And then, obviously we went over the NFL slate, so that'll be fun to discuss next week as well. We'll see you guys next week on Outside the Arena.